This is Kenneth Vance from Rooftop Videos. You may have noticed the title is about the fog. Well, I'm going to give you a possibility of what these fogs are and see if it makes sense. I believe these are signs, and you're going to find out why in very eloquent manners. I'm going to be reading something to you today that was sent to me by a viewer named John Marcello. If I had your name right, I thank you for it. But I would also like to say, in regards to John here, the title of his email was a sermon by itself. 3 strikes and you're out. And the rest of his title is about the 3 lightning strikes on New Year's Eve. One hit the Empire State Building, the other the Capitol Building, and 3 the Washington Monument. Now people might say, well, that's just coincidence. All 3 of these iconic structures hit on New Year's Eve, same night, in the winter. That's not coincidence. Oh, but that's HAARP. That's not HAARP. All they want to do is think the U.S. government is almighty. Everyone thinks that the U.S. government has all this power and that the Father in heaven doesn't have any. He can't do that. God don't do that. But oh, the U.S. government is stronger than God. That's how people are acting. That's why this video is being made, to show you just how close we really are. So before I get into this, because there's a whole bunch of stuff about the fog here and what it might very well mean, and I believe that's exactly what it is. But that's the U.S. government that did it. Maybe. No one can prove it. Either way. So instantaneously, upon the fogs, it's always the government. It's the drones. The government. HAARP. Smart dust. Chemtrails. Maybe. But people are not thinking deep enough. I had a video where I said, is Christmas going to be the start of judgment? Well, nothing blew up, but the fog started at that time, didn't it? It's the timing of the fogs. Now, they may go away in a day or two. It's already done. The sign's already here. For reasons I'm going to show you. The fog started. Then we got the 3 lightning strikes. 3 iconic structures. That's not coincidence. Now, I don't think it's even a warning. I think somebody up there is getting ready to get out of his throne, and he's going to do something, stand up as a man of war, shown in Jeremiah. And you're going to find out why on that. But what about these fogs? Well, they're like styrofoam and blah, blah. You know, the viral video, it's viral like crazy, this guy. It smells like burnt fireworks. So it's got to be the government. Right off the bat, it's got to be the government. Got chemical smells. It's making people sick. It's got to be the government. Maybe. Or the Father allowing it. But let's think a little bit more before I get into this about the fog. Well, it smells like the fireworks that went off. I went and had an AI. I don't have AI, but it shows an AI overview. The AI is doing better than most people. What does it show? Well, I read it, and it says the smell of burnt sulfur, according to AI, is, and this is it, the exact example it gives, is when you light a match and you blow it out. Burnt sulfur. Then AI goes on. And it says that burnt sulfur is likened to the fire and brimstone that fell on Sodom and Gomorrah. Fog smells like chemicals and smoke. It smells like Sodom and Gomorrah, doesn't it? Think. Is this a warning? A sign? I think so. Even if it is the government, it should serve as a sign. But it's making people sick. It's got to be the government. If the Father sent the sign of a sign with the fog, it's not going to bless everybody and smell like cotton candy. It's going to smell like Sodom and Gomorrah. It's going to make people sick because they're under judgment now. Of course it's not going to be good for the people. He's going to destroy it. So yes, it's going to smell like chemicals or smoke and make people sick. You see the viral video, some of that fog that looks like ashes. Look like snow, but look like ashes of Sodom and Gomorrah. That everyone forgot about that. No, he doesn't do that anymore. Read Jeremiah chapter 50, which talks about the fall of America. He specifically says, as I overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah, I will overthrow you. Jeremiah 50, look at it. What do you do with Sodom and Gomorrah? Fire and brimstone. What does the fog smell like in some places? Burnt matches, burnt fireworks, brimstone. Just something to think about. So whether it's the government or not, it doesn't matter. But this is what you got to see. Normally I don't believe many, but this one holds water. If this is not a vision, this ain't mine. If this is not a vision, then you tell me what it is. It was sent to me by John. And this was on July 4th, 1954. Most of you probably already read this. I've read it several times in my life. And I forgot about it, and he brought it to my attention. And everything in this that this man saw on top of the Empire State Building that just got hit on New Year's Eve, of all things, this looks like the fog to me, and it looks like everything else too that's happening right now. So I had to handwrite it down. I don't have a printer. His name is A. Allen. And he died, I looked a little, he was a Pentecostal preacher. I'm kind of Pentecostal myself. I'm not religious. I'm like them, you know. I get a little crazy at times because I get impassioned. But nevertheless, I think his message is real. And I looked, he died at June 11th, 1970. I looked at it, that's 88 days after I was born. So he's no longer with us. But for him to see some of these things in 1954 that they didn't have in 1954 tells me this is a vision, and everything in this is what your Bible is showing. So let's read it. I have to use the light here. It's not good lighting. And he starts. And as I stood atop the Empire State Building that just got hit on New Year's Eve, I could see the Statue of Liberty illuminating the gateway of the New World. Here before me, it was animated, like an animated map, is an area 60 to 80 miles in diameter. I was amazed at the Spirit, and I use the word Lord. I don't use the word Lord or God, but I'm going to read it as he wrote it, okay? That the Lord should move me. My handwriting's not good either. Here atop the Empire State Building, why should I feel such a surge of his Spirit and power there? Suddenly I heard the voice of the Lord. It was as clear and as distinct as a voice could be. It seemed to come from the very midst of the giant telescope, but when I looked at the telescope, I knew it hadn't come from there, but directly from heaven. This voice said to him, apparently, 2 Chronicles 16:9, for the eyes of the Lord are run to and fro throughout the whole earth, to show himself strong in the behalf of them whose heart is perfect towards him. there is. Well, though he was done foolishly, therefore from henceforth thou shalt have war. Sorry, my handwriting's so bad. I write it so fast. It took a while. So bear with me. Bear with me. We'll get there. And he goes back, and immediately when I heard the voice of God, I knew this was a quotation of Scripture. But never before had such a thing come to me so forcibly by the power of the Spirit. The ticking of the telescope stopped. The man behind me had used up his dime's worth. Now notice that has to be from 1954. Why is he talking about a dime? Yeah, right. Notice how he talks. As he stepped away, I knew it was my turn next. And as I stepped to the telescope and dropped in my dime, immediately the ticking started again. And again, this ticking was an automatic clock which would show me to use the telescope for a limited time only. Now, as I swung the telescope to the north, suddenly the Spirit of God came upon me in a way that I had never thought of before. Seemingly in the Spirit, I was entirely taken away. I knew that the telescope itself had nothing to do with the distance which I was suddenly enabled to see. For me to see things beyond the range of the telescope, and he said it was about at 60, 80 miles. Even on a bright, clear day, it was simply that God had chosen this. This time to reveal these things to me. I was not it was not Manhattan Island. Sorry, flip pages. This is how it works. It was not on Manhattan Island that I saw, but a larger view. That morning, much of the view was impaired by fog. Did you see that? I mean, if this is a true vision, that morning, much of the view was impaired by fog. What have we been seeing lately? Fog. But let's go on. Let's see if there's any credibility what this man has to say. But suddenly, as the Spirit of the Lord come upon me, the fog seemed to clear until it seemed that I could see for, look at this, thousands of miles. But that which I was looking upon was not Manhattan Island. It was all of the North American continent spread out before me as a map is on a table. It was not the East River and the Hudson River that I saw on either side, but the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans. And instead of the Statue of Liberty standing there in the bay on her small island, I saw her standing out in the Gulf of Mexico. She was between me and the United States. I suddenly realized that the telescope had nothing to do with what I was seeing, but that was a vision coming to me from God. And to prove this to myself, I took my eyes away from the telescope so that I could no longer be looking through the lens, but that the same scene remained there before me. Now, if this is a vision, and I do believe this really is, which is rare, but I believe it is, he sees the Statue of Liberty not in Manhattan Island no more, but down here in the Gulf of Mexico. What possible reason, this being a vision, would the Statue of Liberty be down here somewhere instead of over here? Well, what's going to happen on March 14th, 2025? Down here, and in this dream, this Statue of Liberty would be on the east. the total lunar eclipse on March 14th, right, basically the path of it where he was seeing this. Now let's go on. There, clear, distinct, lay all of North America and its continent with all the great cities. In the north lay the Great Lakes. Far to the northeast was New York City. I could see Seattle and Portland to the southwest, or northwest, excuse me. And even the west, and at the west coast, there were San Francisco and Los Angeles. Closer in the foreground lay New Orleans. Hold on. At the center of the Gulf Coast, I could see the great towering ranges of the Rocky Mountains and trace with my eye the Continental Divide. All of this and more I could see spread out before me as a great map sitting upon a table. As I looked suddenly from the sky, I saw a giant hand reach down. Same type of hand that wrote on Belshazzar's wall. Go to my video, the handwriting is on the wall. Because it is right now. I do believe this fog is yet another sign that here it is, here it comes. And this hand was reaching out towards the Statue of Liberty. In a moment, her gleaming torch was torn from her hand, and in it instead was placed a cup. And I saw protruding from that great cup is a giant sword, shining as if a great light had been turned upon its glistening edge. Never before had I seen such a sharp, glistening, dangerous sword. It seemed to threaten all the world. As the U.S. threatens the whole world, trying to start World War III and bomb everybody, right? As the great cup was placed in the hand of the Statue of Liberty, I heard these words. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, drink you and be drunken, and spew and fall and rise no more, because of the sword I will send. That sounds like this guy's vision. Now, if he's making it up, there's other things here that he couldn't have made up in 1954. That's where it gets interesting. That's what gets interesting. And it seems to be unfolding right now, beginning with this fog. Now, I expect it to go away in a few days, but that's not the point. Showing you at the birth of the false new year what's coming. As I read these words, I recognized them as a quotation from Jeremiah 28. I was amazed to hear the Statue of Liberty speak out in reply, saying, I will not drink. Then as the voice of the thunder I heard again a voice of the Lord saying, you will certainly drink. From Jeremiah 25:28. This is America. In reply, I will not drink. Most people are doing it. America, make America great again, Donald Trump. We're going to take America back. Alex Jones, there's a great awakening. The New World Order's on the run. Everyone's saying they're not going to drink. America's saying we're not going to fall. We'll see no sorrow. We'll not see the edge of the sword. Amos chapter 9. Yes, you will. You will drink, America. All the arrogance of people is they're not going to drink. So therefore, the fogs must be the government so that we don't have to face the Father in repentance. Because if people start saying the fog might be a sign from the Father, then that means they have to face up to their sins. So no, it's got to be the government so we can escape spiritual responsibility before the Father. We will not drink of the truth. And suddenly the great hand forced the cup to the lips of America, the Babylon I added, of the Statue of Liberty. And she became powerless to defend herself. The giant hand of God forced her to drink every drop from the cup. As she drank the bitter dregs, these were the words which I heard. Well, this is scripture, people. This even if this wasn't a vision, it's right on the money. Should you be utterly unpunished? And I'll be going over that with Amos chapters 1 and 2 of my Third Temple series, which starts very shortly. Should you be utterly unpunished? You shall not be unpunished, for I will call for a sword upon all the inhabitants of the earth, saith the Elohim of hosts. When the cup was withdrawn from the lips of the Statue of Liberty, I noticed the sword was missing from the cup, which could only mean one thing. The contents of the cup had been completely consumed. I knew that the sword here merely typified war and destruction, which is no doubt on the way. Well, he thought it was going to happen back then, but 60-some years later, now it is. Then as one drunken on too much wine, I saw the Statue of Liberty become unsteady on her feet and begin to stagger and lose her balance. I saw her stagger again and again and fall to her knees. As I saw her desperate attempts to regain her balance and rise to her own feet again, my heart was moved as never before, with compassion for her struggles. But as she staggered here in the gulf again, once again I heard these words. Drink you and be drunken. Is that not what's going on? Drink you and be drunken, and fall and rise no more, because of the sword which I will send among you. Jeremiah 25:37. That's right. I mean, this what this guy was saying is right in Scripture. I mean, this is a fact. It's Scripture. I really do think this happened. As I watched, I wondered if the Statue of Liberty would ever be able to regain her feet, if she would ever stand again. And as I watched, it seemed that with all her power, she struggled to rise and finally staggered to her feet again and stood there swaying drunkenly. I felt sure that at any moment she would fall again, possibly never to rise. I seemed overwhelmed with a desire to reach out my hand to keep her head above water, for I know that if she ever fell again, she would drown there in the Gulf. And that's exactly what's going to happen to America. I've been going over this. America's going to fall, and it's going to be emptied out. That might be right away. Thou shalt not be afraid for the night, nor for the arrows that flieth by day, nor the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that walketh at noonday. Psalms 91. Then as I watched, another amazing thing was taking place. Far to the northwest, just out over Alaska, a huge black cloud was arising. And does not the Bible say Russia and China, they're going to come from out of the north? Now let's go on. The huge black cloud was arising. As it rose, it was black as night. It seemed to be in the shape of a man's hand as it continued to rise. I observed two light spots in the black cloud. It rose further, and a gaping hole appeared. I could see that the black cloud was taking the shape of a skull, which represents death. Represents the pale horse by any chance? Now its huge, white, gaping mouth was plainly visible. Finally, the head was complete. Then the shoulders began to appear, and on either side, long black arms. It seemed that what I saw, the entire North American continent, spread out like a map on a table with this terrible skeleton formed cloud arising from behind the table. It rose steadily until the visible down to the waist. That's how it was written. It was visible down to the waist. At the waist, the skeleton seemed to bend towards the United States, stretching forth a hand towards the east and towards the west. East to the west. Eclipse, east to the west. March 14th. Now let's go on. Gets more interesting as we go along. And towards, stretching a hand towards New York. What have I been saying? I think New York's a great city, a last great city. The first place that gets it. Let's go on. No need to, you've seen all this before, but and towards Seattle, as the awful form stretched forward, I could see its entire attention seemed to be focused upon the United States. Of course, that's right. Overlooking Canada, at least for the time being, as I saw the horrible black cloud and in the form of the skeleton bending towards America. Now bending from the waist over, reaching down towards Chicago and towards both coasts, I knew its one interest was to destroy the multitudes. And that's exactly what's going to happen, to destroy the multitudes. Let's go on. As I watched in horror, the great black cloud stopped just above the Great Lakes region and turned back towards New York City to face it. Then out of the horrible great gaping mouth began to appear wisp of white vapor. Hold on. Which looked like smoke from his mouth. These whitest vapors were being blown towards New York City. The smoke began to spread until it covered all the eastern part of the United States. Stop right there. Did we not have the same thing that's been happening over the last week or so? The fogs. Have we not seen it with our own eyes? This is, unless I'm wrong, this is exactly what I'm seeing. This guy saw this in 1954. If it was a vision, and I believe so, he's right on the money. Probably didn't realize what it all meant, but we're seeing it. But let's go on, it gets more interesting. Then the skeleton turned to west. And out of the horrible mouth and nostrils came another whiff of white smoke. Where is it this time? This time it was blown in the direction of the west coast. In a few moments, I wrote this wrong. It took time to the entire west. I wrote this wrong, so sorry. To the entire west coast and Los Angeles area were covered with its vapors. I missed a few words. But he shows that he says that it hits the Los Angeles area then. Did we not just see it? Just happened. I saw the videos. Los Angeles just got it, if they don't still have it. Now, it's winter, so there's fogs all the time. That's true, there'll be fog in the summer too. But not like this. But Los Angeles is getting it now. Let's go on. I like this. Then towards the center, comes a great puff. And as I watched, St. Louis and Kansas City were enveloped in its white vapors. Now, I haven't checked on that one yet. Let's go on. Then they came towards, New Orleans. Did not New Orleans just get attacked on January 1st? they swept until they reached the Statue of Liberty, where she stood staggering drunkenly in the blue waters of the Gulf. As the white vapors began to spread around the head of the statue, she took in but, right here, one gasping breath, and then began to cough as though to rid her lungs of the horrible vapors she had inhaled. And what are people saying? It give for a lot of these videos, it's giving them respiratory problems. They've got nausea. They're getting sick. Are we starting to see maybe a comparison here? You might think I'm in La La Land. Think again. There might be something to this. This is exactly what we're seeing right now. Let's go on. One could readily discern by the coffin that these white vapors had seared her lungs. What were these white vapors? Could they signify bacteriological warfare or nerve gas that could destroy multitudes of people in a few moments' time? Well, I think we're going to find out either way, hence the bird flu. Maybe they're going to spray something and get people sick, and then they say, oh, it was the bird flu, not us. I don't know. Either way, I see this as signs. Then I heard the voice of God as it spoke again. Behold, the Lord maketh the earth empty, and maketh it waste, and turneth it upside down, and scattereth abroad the inhabitants thereof. And it shall be as with the people. Now, what's the name of my video? Just like 3 or 4 videos ago, I just taught on Isaiah chapter 24. I'll put it in the link in the description box there. I just went over this in reference to now. So let's go on. So with the priest, as with the servant, so with his master, as with the maid, so with her mistress, as with the buyer, so with the seller, as with the lender, so with the borrower, as with the taker of usury, so with the giver of usury. To him the land shall be utterly emptied and utterly, right here, spoiled. Hold on. For the Lord has spoken this word. The earth mourns and fades away. The haughty people that says that America's not going to fall out of the earth do languish. The earth also is defiled under the inhabitant there because they have transgressed the law. Went over that in my video. Changed the ordinances. Broken the everlasting covenant. That whole Bible there. Therefore hath the curse devoured the earth, and they that dwell therein are desolate. Therefore the inhabitant of the earth are burned, and few men left in it. Isaiah 24. There he goes on. And as I watched, the coughing grew worse. Have you noticed that all the hospitals now, they're back to mask? California's already mandated yeah. It sounded like a person about to cough out his lungs. The Statue of Liberty was moaning and groaning. She was in mortal agony. The pain must have been terrible, as again and again she tried to clear her lungs of horrible white vapors. I watched her there in the Gulf as she staggered, clutching her lungs and her breast with her hands. And she fell to her knees. In a moment, she gave one final cough, made one last desperate effort to rise from her knees, and then fall face forward in the waters of the Gulf, and lay still as tears ran down my face as I realized that she was dead. Only the lapping of the waves, splashing over her body, which she was partly under the water and partly out of the water, broke the stillness. That's what America, that's the end of America, because it's going to be desolate. The only sound you're going to hear is just nature. America's going to be emptied out. It is coming. A fire devoureth before them. Behind them a flame burneth. The land is as a garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness, and nothing shall escape them. Oh, I missed a page. No, I didn't. Okay, I did not miss a page. I thought I did. Sorry. Now, this is obviously a quote from Joel. All right, now we'll go on. I thought I had it in the wrong order or something. All right, now he goes on. He heard the screaming of sirens. Suddenly, the silence was shattered by the screaming of sirens. The sirens seemed to, what's this? Scream. He wrote, seemed to scream, run for your lives, as he wrote it. That's exactly what Jeremiah says. The voice of them that flee and escape out of the midst of Babylon, to declare in Zion the vengeance of his temple. Let every man flee and deliver his soul. Sounds familiar. Never before had I heard such shrill, screaming sirens. They seem to be everywhere, to the north, to the south, the east, and the west. They seem to be as the multitude of sirens. And as I looked, I saw people everywhere running, but it seemed none of them ran that made more than a few paces, and then they fell. What did I say in Amos chapter 5? For every 1,000 in the city, 100's going to make it. For out every 100, 10's going to make it. And they're not going to be able to run fast enough before it goes boom, boom. It's going to happen fast. How long the whole thing takes, I don't know. We're getting ready to find out, I'm pretty sure. And find out where I was. And even as I seen the Statue of Liberty struggling to regain her poise, and balance, and finally fallen for the last time to die on her face, I now saw millions of people falling in the streets, on the sidewalks, struggling. I heard the horrible coughing as though their lungs had been seared. I don't know, seared. That sounds to me like, I don't know. Sounds to me like fallout, but hold on. Let's go on. I heard the moanings and groanings of the doomed and dying. And as I watched, a few finally reached shelter, but only a few ever got to the shelters. Above the moaning and groaning of the dying multitudes, I heard these words. And I don't have much farther to go, but I had to read this. A hope shall come even to the ends of the earth. For the Lord has controversy with the nations, and he will plead with all flesh. He will give them that are wicked to the sword. Same sword she's forced to drink, right? Saith the Lord. Same one that says, we're not going to see sorrow, we're not going to see the edge of the sword. Amos 9. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, behold, evil shall go forth from nation to nation. Nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom, World War III, Revelation 6:8, pale horse. Now notice, now let's go back where he's quoting these verses. Evil shall go forth from nation to nation, and a great whirlwind shall be raised up to the coast of the earth, and the slain of the Lord shall be as that from that day, from one end of the earth, even unto the other end of the earth. They shall not be lamented, neither gathered, nor buried, they shall be dung upon the ground. In Jeremiah, notice he says this whirlwind. What happens when a nuclear bomb goes off? You know the bottom of it, the big fireball goes, big round whirlwind. What does Amos say? There should be dead bodies in every place. And they should be cast forth with silence. Not only to burn bodies there, according to this, they should not be buried. Just lay there and rot. That's exactly the same thing. Who's going to be able to bury all these people anyway? And they're not going to be lamented. There's not going to be funeral services for 200-300 million in just America alone. Who's going to bury all that? Who's going to have all the funeral services? They're not going to be lamented. It's over. And suddenly I saw from the Atlantic and from the Pacific and out of the Gulf rocket-like objects that seemed to come up from leaping out of the water like fish. Into the air they leaped, each headed in a different direction, but everyone towards the United States. The sound of on the ground, the siren screamed louder. And up from the ground, I saw similar rockets beginning to ascend. To me, these appeared to be interceptor rockets, although they arise from different points all over the United States. However, none of them seemed to be successful in intercepting the rockets that had risen from the ocean on every side. This is why I say, and now I looked into it. The first ever nuclear submarine was the very year this guy had this vision, in 1954. It was brand spanking new, the first one, called the USS Nautilus. But he's seeing missiles coming out of the water. They didn't have that back then. If they did, it was hidden government knowledge. It was classified, and they had no way of knowing except that he was shown. To see these rockets booming everything from out of the oceans, that's future tense there. So there was those say, well, they've had this stuff for 100 years. I don't buy that at all. Sorry, no, I'm not. No. But he saw something that, if there was by any chance, it was classified. You bet your bottom dollar. No way he could have known except he was shown. Nuclear missiles. If he's right on all this, the U.S. is going to get blown to bits, and U.S. is going to fail. And Jeremiah says, shoot your arrows and none shall return in vain. Does it sound familiar, Jeremiah 51? These rockets finally reached their maximum height, slowly turned over, and fell back towards the earth in defeat. Then suddenly the rockets, which had leaped out of the oceans from all the fish, all exploded at once. The explosion was ear-splitting. The next thing which I saw was a huge ball of fire. That's the nuclear explosions. The only thing I have ever seen which resembled the thing that I saw in my vision was a picture of the explosion of the H-bomb somewhere in the South Pacific. In my vision, it was so real that I seemed to feel a searing heat from it. And it goes on. It's getting ready to happen, people. I know you may not like what I'm saying. It's getting ready to happen. It is getting ready to happen. This is how serious it is. You can poo-poo what I say here. This guy saw things beforehand, and it's happening now. Unless this is a huge false alarm and I got it all wrong. But I don't think these fogs is coincidence. You get fogs all the time, but not like this. And at the timing, from Christmas, the pagan Christmas, to the counterfeit New Year and beyond, and with the next Congress and Trump getting into office. Right? Good timing, starting with the holidays. As the vision spread before my eyes, and I viewed the desolation brought about by the terrific explosions, I could not help thinking while the defender of our nations have quibbled over what means of a defense to use and neglected the only true means of a defense, which is faith and dependence upon the true and living God, the thing which she feared has come unto her. That's right. And he quotes Psalms 127:1, which is very, well, it says, except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that builds it. Except the Lord keep the city, the watchman walketh in vain. Then as the noise of the battle subsided, to my ears came this question. Blow ye the trumpet in Zion, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain, that all the inhabitants of the land tremble. We should be. Now. That's right. For the day of the Lord comes, for it is night, nigh hand, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness, as the morning spreads upon the mountains. A great people and a strong. And what did he say? As the morning spread upon the mountains. What is that? He says there's this day of the horrible day of destruction here is preceded. He says it is a day of clouds and of thick darkness as the morning spread upon the mountains. The morning spread upon the mountains. This day of great destruction maybe is precipitated by a signal that it's about to hit. Morning spread upon the mountains. That's none other than fog. Isn't it? What happens, especially around here? Fogs in the mountains. Fogs could be down low too, but he used the word mountains. Mountains also means nations too, doesn't it? But the fogs are mostly in the mornings, right? Yeah. Neither, or even to the year of many generations. Now notice this. A fire devoureth before them, behind them a flame burneth. The land is as the Garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness. Yes, and nothing shall escape them. What's he talking about here? Let's read this again. Notice what he's saying. A fire devoureth before them. Think about that. A fire is before them, but behind them, a flame burneth. The land is desolate. He says, yes, behind them a desolate wilderness. Think about what he's actually saying here. I've been saying this all along. The fire that's before them is the boom boom. Then that's the fire that's before them that kicks off the last day's move. The fire before them is the boom boom. Then his people are going out in the second Exodus. And as they're leaving, there's still flames that are burning, the leftover destruction. And the places we're leaving, especially when we leave America, when it's all over, is desolate in the aftermath. That's what he's basically saying. That's a blueprint. Yes, and nothing shall escape them. The appearance of them is as the appearance of horses, and as horsemen, so shall they run, like the noise of chariots. On the tops of mountains, nations, shall they leap, like the noise of a flame of fire that devoureth. The noise of a flame of fire that devoureth. The stubble as a strong people sit in battle array. Could this flame of fire that devoureth be nukes by any chance? Can't confirm that yet. But people sit in battle array before their face, The people shall be much pained, and all faces shall gather blackness. They shall run like mighty men, they shall climb the walls like men of war. And they shall march every one his ways, and they shall not break their ranks. Neither shall one thrust another. They shall walk every one in his path, and when they fall upon the sword, they shall not be wounded. They shall run to and fro in the city. They shall run upon the wall, shall climb upon the houses, and shall enter in the windows like a thief. Lo, the earth shall quake before them. The heavens shall tremble, the sun and the moon shall be dark, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. Now he continues on. It's almost over. So I'm almost over. Then the voice was still. The earth too was silent with the silence. And then to my ears came another sound, a sound of, now this is the part. I've been going over this too. Now this, if this isn't a vision, how come he got, especially this one right? How in the world can he get this one right? Come on here. Then to my ears came another sound, a sound of music that I had never heard. There was joyful shouting and sounds of happy laughter. And I'll go on. Immediately I knew it was the rejoicing of the saints of God. I looked, and they're high in the heavens, above the smoke and poisonous gases, above the sound of the noise of battle, I saw a huge mountain. It seemed to be of solid rock. I knew at once that those was the mountain of the Lord. The sounds of music and rejoicing were coming from a cleft high up in the side of the mountain. What might have he been seeing? Well, it says there's a mountain. What does Daniel say? It hits the image on its feet. It's a stone, poosh, and it grows into a mountain. He's talking about the kingdom being established here. But before it begins, we got to have the boom boom flame in front of us. Then as we're going through Exodus out of here, as we're leaving, there's still flames in the aftermath, as flame behind us, and then desolations in the ultimate end where we just left. But as us, it's the Garden of Eden before our face, because we're heading towards the kingdom. That's this mountain right here. But they're singing. But let me go back. Then to my ears came another sound, a sound of music I had never heard. What does it say in Revelation? That only the overcomers, the 144,000 first fruits, can sing this song and learn it. They're the only ones that can learn it and know it. So hold on, let's check my phone. Sorry about that, I thought it clicked off on me. This song is the song of Moses that no one could learn. But anyone could go to Exodus and read the song of Moses. These are the only people that could sing this song because we're the only ones that went through the cross, the tomb, the resurrection training. We came out of holidays. The Torah law is not done away with. We got all these things right. And we kept walking the right direction while most would never. We're the only ones that is going to be able to rejoice in these last days. Who shall be able to abide it? That's what he's talking about. It was the saints of God who were doing the rejoicing. It was God's own people who were singing and dancing and shouting from all, and say from all the harm which has come upon the earth. For they were hidden in the cleft of the rock or mountain. There in the cleft, they were shouting, and they were protected by a great giant hand which reached out of the heavens, and which was none other than the hand of God, shutting them in until the storm be overpassed. Sounds to me like a Goshen moment, don't it? Are these fogs judgment? Is this how close we really are? You're going to have to decide. This guy saw things, he probably didn't recognize it as fog, but we do. He saw it as smoke, as someone from a cigarette. Exactly what's been happening. And it's been spreading around the world too. He says he'll destroy all the inhabitants of the earth. So maybe that's what these fogs are about. Okay, I'm going to try to end it here because this has already been in the overtime. This needed to be read. And there's a possible explanation what these fogs really are. But I see no one on the internet teaching this one because they want to make it the U.S. government every time. How big and bad Uncle Sam is. They never want to think that he's big and bad, that he's strong. Oh God, he ain't got no power. But the U.S. government and their technology, U.S. government is God. But God up there, he ain't powerful enough to do anything. He can't do that. He's just sitting there. That's basically the attitude people have. That really is basically what people's thinking is. That he's a nothing burger. And they're refusing to drink the cup. You're going to drink it, America. And you government, you're going to get it. And I'm going to sing Burn, Baby, Burn as you're going down. One of the happiest days of my life. I hate this government, period. And the evil they have done. America's going to fall. So there, you make your own decision. If you would like to have, if you can't find it, it's by A. Allen. It was July 4th, 1954, Vision of America Falling. You can find it. If you can't, I can paste and copy it, and if you email me, and I'll send it to you. If this ain't happening, I don't know what. And with this March 14th eclipse, right where he saw the Statue of Liberty, and the moon is female. The sun is recognized as male. And for those who say the moon isn't female, the king says, the moon shall not give her light. That ends that argument. So you make your own decision. But I think this is a sign. I don't know when it's going to go boom, boom, but I don't think we have much longer.